When you look at speedrun.com, you'll notice that Minecraft has a large player base. Minecraft has always had a community in speedrunning, dating back 13 years ago when the first ever run was to obtain diamonds. However, when Minecraft 1.0 released with a real ending of defeating the dragon, runners now had a solid goal. As years went by and the game got more and more complex, the speedruns had gained increased recognition. This popularity skyrocketed with the release of 1.16, the Nether update. Admired content creators with huge followings were attempting their own runs, which evolved this version of Minecraft to be one of the most competitive categories in all of speedrunning history. More specifically, Random Seed Glitchless, a run where a player loads into a world they've never seen before and attempts to beat the game as fast as they can. The current world record sits at around 7 minutes. However, times like these were unfathomable a few years ago. More people were concerned about getting a sub 10 minute run, which a few thought was impossible. Being the most significant minute barrier, everyone wanted to be the first. Speedrunners would go on to race each other, reducing the time minute by minute, second by second, until one person finally sat on top of the throne. This is the quest for the first sub 10 Minecraft speedrun. Also subscribe because it helps me out. Thanks. It's probably best to start from the beginning, so let's take a look at the first ever submission for 1.16 by the runner Ogmo. This run, in 2 words, was not good. In 3 words, very not good. You don't really expect much from a first run, but I'll quickly highlight a few elements so we can see how speedruns evolve over time. Ogmo spends 22 minutes gathering food and materials until he finds a lava pool and enters by making another portal. His main method of getting ender pearls was to kill endermen in a warped forest. 39 minutes in, he located a fortress and started to collect blaze rods. Around 5 minutes later, he got 8 blaze rods. When he exited, he tamed a horse in an effort to get to the stronghold faster. After running in a random direction without first throwing an eye of ender, he came across a village. Using TNT to get wood for sticks, he traded for emeralds that can be used to trade for pearls. An hour and 10 minutes into the run, Ogmo had 14 eyes of ender, also while running into a glitched zombie villager. 15 minutes later, the eye went down, which told him he was above the stronghold. After fighting the portal room, he entered the end and killed the dragon with a total time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 41 seconds. For a first run, it's not horrible, but many tricks to go fast aren't implemented. What's interesting to note is that the new features of 1.16 aren't present in this run at all. No bastions or even piglin trading. That would come later. Actually, a few hours later. Another run, also on June 26, took place by the runner Benex, improving the previous time by over an hour. Using a desert village, he was able to get food, beds, and a bucket in order to enter the nether. Doing that, he spawned right next to a fortress. A standard blaze fight followed, with Benex being at 7 rods. He then looked through the bad part of the fortress in order to get gold. This is because this is how he'll get ender pearls. Using netherrack gold, he got more ingots and started to trade with a piglin. In 1.16, piglins have the chance to trade gold for ender pearls, which has been a staple to 1.16 runs even to this day and probably forever. Getting enough pearls from just a few gold is quite unlikely, which is why this is where RNG plays a role. Runs like this are called classic strats. At around 15 minutes in, Benex had 15 ender pearls and started looking for the stronghold. A long travel later, he arrived at the portal room and entered the end. He first starts off by breaking the crystals with a bow and arrow. What followed after is the first evolution of dragon fights, the very first 1 cycle. While this technique is found in other versions, 1.16, like normal, would eventually find a more efficient way of doing it. For now, this is all we have, but just keep in mind that end fights in the future will become much more complex. A week later, there was a new record by NiceTwice. It was relatively similar to Benex's run, so it won't take too long to talk about it. Overall, it used similar strategies but had better luck with piglin trading, which allowed him to outpace the previous world record. He ended with a time of 21:08. You might look at this time and be a little confused. Well, let me direct you to this other timer right here. Now you might be even more confused, so let me explain. Minecraft speedruns are timed in 2 ways, real time or RTA for short, and in-game time or IGT. RTA is simply the amount of real time that has passed since entering the seed, while IGT is a little more complicated. IGT is the amount of time spent in the world. This means that stuff like pauses and load times don't count. Runs generally use IGT for timing due to computer hardware differences. It's good to know this, and while it doesn't mean a whole lot right now, it will in the future, so keep it in mind. You might have realized that NiceTwice's run is really close to under 20 minutes, so in the upcoming days, motivation to claim first place was even higher if it also meant getting the first ever sub 20. This run actually lasted a decent amount of time, over a month in fact, and for such a popular game, this is quite impressive. But with all world records, they're bound to be broken eventually, and this run was no exception. On this day, the Sizzler would go on to obtain the first sub 20. Looking at the run, nothing really sticks out. In fact, it's actually on a much slower pace than NiceTwice's run. Sizzler exited the nether 3 minutes later and entered the end a minute and a half later. So how did this run surpass the previous world record? It all lies within the end fight. NiceTwice had taken time to break the crystals and kill the dragon with multiple perch cycles. This made its end fight take around 4 minutes long. What did Sizzler do? Instead, he was gonna one cycle. Similar to Dmax's end fight but without a bow and arrow. He stood near the fountain and waited for a single perch of the dragon. By 1910, it happened.
Oh my fucking god. We did it!
7 beds later, and the Sizzler would get the first sub 20 run. It was an impressive run, but also that's not the title of the video, so let's swiftly move on. The next run is won by a runner named Dmax. Starting off in a village, he gets some food and iron. A blacksmith gives him obsidian, which is quite convenient considering there was a nearby completable ruin portal. The chest gave him a ton of gold carrots, but there was also a gold block on top of the portal. This saved time collecting gold in the nether. Spawning right next to a fortress, Dmax knew that this run had potential. Unfortunately, it was in a basalt delta which doesn't have any piglins to trade with. After getting rods, he ran to a nearby nether waste to trade for pearls. Funny enough, he got 2 pearl trades but didn't even realize it.
Break. You got him! Oh my god, thanks for telling me.
What's noteworthy is that Dmax exited the nether slower than NiceTwice. Fortunately, with 1 cycles, it was still on pace for a world record. Entering the end at around the same time as Sizzler, this would be close. So close in fact that this happened.
Yes, oh my god. No. No way, I need to retime it. I need to retime it, fuck.
A 1941, the same time as Sizzler, except it actually wasn't. Remember when I talked about in-game time? Well, this timer here is RTA and runs go by IGT. So when this run was retimed to exclude game loads, it turned out that it was actually 4 seconds faster. Just barely a new world record. But barely wasn't gonna cut it for Dmax, because 10 days later he broke his own time. Let's break down this run. The overworld was standard. Actually, it was a little slow with a 6-minute nether enter. It took around 5 minutes to get blaze rods, and then the turning point of the run occurred. A completable ruin portal. Kind of poetic thinking about how his first world record went. Anyways, this was good for a few reasons. First off, it gave him 2 gold blocks to trade with piglins, which gave him enough pearls. The second was that he didn't have to travel back to his original portal. Instead, he could leave the nether right there. This is pretty much the very beginning of portal travel. However, it would get a lot more complex in the future. This portal is at -185, 148. These are good coordinates, and that's due to the way strongholds generate. Strongholds generate in rings. The first ring has 3 strongholds and is where speedrunners most likely end up. By placing a portal in this ring, it saves travel time by potentially placing you right next to a stronghold. In this run, Dmax throws one eye and follows the angle. After a short travel, he throws another and it goes backwards. In only 3 eye throws, he knows where to dig down. He finds the portal room and enters the end on the fastest pace yet, finally ahead of NiceTwice. The dragon eventually perched, and 6 beds later, Dmax would break his own record with a 17:26, a time save of 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Considering how short this category is, a time save like this is huge. It was actually the 2nd largest time cut in the category. But then, who has the largest time save? Another 10 days later, Korbanoes would come to take the crown. Fun fact about him is that he's actually a former world record holder in Minecraft 1.14. But on this day, Corbanoes was attempting runs in 1.16. He wouldn't just beat Dmax's time, no, that would be too easy for him. Instead, he got this run. Corbano spawned next to an acacia village that had a nearby lava pool. After getting food and iron, he entered the nether before 4 minutes. The spawn was perfect, already on a fortress but also in a crimson forest which spawns piglins. As he got blaze rods, he collected gold nuggets. In an insane stroke of luck, after 5 trades, Corbanos got 2 pearl trades. And as a side note, that has a 0.19% chance of happening, I think. I did the math on my own, so it could be wrong. Anyways, with this fortune, he was able to leave the nether at 7:29, which is incredibly fast for the time. Traveling through the ocean, Corbanus found an ocean exposed stronghold. The portal room wasn't exposed, which meant he had to spend time searching around for it. In the end, at 12:51, the dragon took a minute and a half to perch. Using 6 beds to one cycle the dragon, Corbanos had destroyed the previous world record. Not only did he skip over the first sub 17, but also the first sub 16 and became the first player to get a run faster than 15 minutes. And, well, it wouldn't be a crazy run if people thought that it was cheated. Nonetheless, it turned out to be real and the largest time skip in all of 1.16 with a save of 2 minutes and 29 seconds. I don't imagine any time save being that large in the future, but who knows. All these runs we've already talked about use some pretty outdated strategies. The big one that was holding runners back was getting unlucky with piglin barters. Seeing Korbanoes get 2 pearl trades from 5 gold is highly unlikely, and if that was the requirement for a world record, it would take a while to be beaten. So what would be a more consistent way of getting pearls? Well, this is where bastions come into play. Bastions were a new structure added in this update. They provide a ton of gold blocks and a lot of pigs. It was believed that they were pretty useless, however, one player would end up changing the game forever.
Yo everyone, what's going on? Couriway here.
Now we would enter into the modern-ish era of Minecraft speedrunning with this new world record. Couriway entered the world next to a village with a blacksmith. The village allowed him to get a bucket and an iron pickaxe, which would be necessary later in the run. Unfortunately, there wasn't a nearby lava pool, so it ended up being an around 5-minute nether enter. Curry ends up seeing a bastion and decides to play out the seed. If you're used to current day speedruns, the first thing you'll notice is the lack of familiarity. There were no dedicated routes at the time, so Curry had to improvise. He gets a large amount of gold blocks, then notices a decent amount of pigs. At 8 minutes, he has enough pearls but also gets some fire resistance, which comes in play in the fortress. Having fire res while fighting blazes makes it so much easier. After getting 6 rods, he is ready to leave. However, this nether exit is marginally slower than Korbanoes. But bastions not only provide ender pearls, they also give obsidian. Using this obsidian allows Curry to leave straight from the fortress instead of having to travel back to the original portal. Quite similar to Dmax using a ruined portal. This technique is called a blind travel and is used all the time in current speedruns. As mentioned before, putting a portal in the ring has a chance to put you close to the stronghold. After Curry exits, he still needs to find the stronghold, so he starts throwing eyes. His first 2 tell him that he's close, and on his 3rd it goes straight down. The end enter was similar to Corbanoes, but the dragon fight was much faster. Runners found out that the further away from the fountain, the more likely it is that the dragon will perch. So, Curry climbs up a tower and awaits for the dragon perch. Finally it goes, and he hits the 1 cycle, lowering the time down to 14:36. This record felt like the beginning of the end. A bastion's utility was only theorized at this point, but this run had solidified it. From this point onward, bastions would be a part of every run. Oh, and really quickly, I just want to add this part in from Curry's video because it's hilarious.
I know where the golem is. I'm gonna grab these beds first, and I apologize if I'm talking kind of fast in this, but I don't really have a lot of time to say what's going on because the time is so fast.
2020 had ended and 2021 had begun, but there were still no new world records. In fact, it was looking like the whole month of January was about to go by without anything happening. That was until the 30th, when runner Rainx entered into a seed. He starts by running around in the overworld until a village catches his eye. Now, it might seem out of place to not collect any beds here, but it actually makes sense. Another strength of bastions is that piglins provide string which can be crafted into wool for beds. With every new discovery, it feels more and more like bastions were made for speedrunning. Getting iron from a blacksmith and locating a completable ruined portal, he is ready to enter the nether. Immediately he notices a fortress but has to find a bastion. Rain now does an advanced strategy known as waste a minute going the wrong direction, then backtrack and stumble upon a treasure bastion.
Oh, I should have gone this way. I should have gone this way, man.
What you'll notice that's different from Curry's run is that this bastion is played almost formulaic. When Couriway got his world record, people started to realize how good bastions are. So, top runners started to develop routes for all 4 types of bastions. The one Curry had was known as Bridge. What Rainx is in is Treasure. After he got everything he needed, he was off to the fortress. Killing blazes, he only got 6 rods. This meant that if any of his eyes broke, there would be a chance that the run dies due to not being able to fill in the portal. After placing a portal down and checking the angle of the eye, he gets a reading of -26 degrees. Rain then travels a short distance and throws another eye. This time it went backwards, telling him he was incredibly close to the stronghold. 2 minutes later, Rainx entered the end 5 seconds faster than Curry according to their RTAs. As Rain runs up to the fountain, he sets up a 1 cycle in a different way. Instead of placing a block on the middle pillar, he uses crying obsidian in this spot. By doing this, it makes timing bed explosions much easier, reducing the total amount of time spent killing the dragon. We see this exactly with Rainx killing it in only 4 beds, claiming the world record.
There it is, boys. There it is, boys. That's how we do it. Dude, that's how we do it. All right. That's it, bros. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, bro.
While his in-game time reads 14:10, it was later retimed to 14:07, which will be important for the next run. This next world record is probably the rarest thing to happen in Minecraft speedrunning. The player Zylenox would get a world record by saving a total of 0 milliseconds. That's right, this run resulted in a tied world record. Before I even get into that, let's first watch the run, and this time I'm gonna do it in the least amount of words possible. Village, dig down, lava, nether, bastion, fortress, rods, blind portal, eye throw, pauses to do math, find stronghold, enter the end, and finally kill the dragon in 4 beds.
Did we do it? Did we do it? Did we beat the world record? Please indicate time. 5 seconds! I don't care! 5-second world record!
Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the interesting bit. You'll see that Zylenox's time reads 14:05, which would be 2 seconds faster than Rainx. So why was this a tie in the first place? And it was because of this moment right here. When Zylenox threw an eye and paused to do mental math, the moderators had counted that as part of the retime. There's a lot I could talk about, but Zylenox sums it up pretty well in his video.
For the first time ever, there's a tied world record in Minecraft, and there was a lot of complication between my time and Rainx's time with like retimes and pausing and different little rules. But what me, Rainx, and the mod team decided to do was just tie the world record instead. There were just too many reasons why my time was ahead of his or his time was ahead of mine. So we just tied it.
Minecraft speedrunning's past is incredibly deep, so much so that when you look at the history tab of speedrun.com, Zylenox's run doesn't even appear. I probably could have made a video just about how insane of an event a world record tie is, but we got a lot of runs to talk about, which brings me to the next one. Illumina, a long-time former speedrunner. Now, this run is quite different from what we've seen before, and that's because Illumina doesn't use F3. In case you didn't know, F3 is what allows runners to know their cardinal directions, coordinates, and many other important things. It's a strict disadvantage to not use it, but that's how Illumina prefers to play. Another difference is that due to the nether terrain, he was forced to go to the fortress first. This means that killing blazes become a larger struggle without fire resistance. With 6 rods, Illumina left for a nearby treasure bastion. Due to a few misplays, this bastion took over 2 minutes. Leaving at 8:40, Illumina searched for the stronghold. Here is probably the hardest part without F3. Unable to look at the angle of the eye makes this process much harder. What's worse is that this blind travel ended up being pretty far. However, it did lead him into the ocean, which led to the next big time save. This stronghold is known as Ocean Exposed, which means it's exposed in the ocean. What's great about this is that the portal room was able to be seen from above, skipping the stronghold routing process, which has potential to take a long time. Entering the end around the same pace as Zylenox, the world record was in the fate of the dragon. Eventually, it perches and Illumina kills the dragon in 5 beds without hitboxes. This run was the start of probably the craziest 2 months in Minecraft speedrunning history. It also brought us into the sub 14s, which really didn't last long because the next world record was set just 3 days later. This next runner is one who doesn't know how to count. His name is 2-letter name, so I guess he's 11 letters off, but a good attempt. Anyways, this run is one where we see a different overworld. TLN starts in an island and visits a nearby shipwreck which contains a few materials and a buried treasure map. Locating the treasure, he then has plenty of iron and food. We also get a new portal with the magma ravine, which will eventually be the most common way of entering the nether in the future. Besides that, his spawn is perfect, right at the bottom of a bastion. This one is known as housing, which is commonly considered the best one. There is a 4th bastion type, but none of the records we talk about use it. It's known as stables, and just know that it has high variance due to how many RNG aspects there are. Continuing with the run, it's pretty standard. It enters the end at a slower pace than Illumina, but makes up for it with an insanely fast dragon purge. The run ends with a time of 13:52, only 1 second faster. Now, this could be troublesome. Maybe with retimes and whatnot, we could end up with another tied world record situation. Unsure if he got the world record, 2-letter name continued to reset seeds, and thankfully he did, because 1 day later he absolutely shattered his time with a new one of 12 minutes and 9 seconds. This one was pretty similar. It used the shipwreck plus buried treasure to get materials and an enter through a magma ravine. Another was also the same, except it used the treasure bastion. After setting his blind portal down and finding the stronghold in 2 minutes, he entered the end around 11 minutes. Yet another incredibly fast dragon perch later, 2-letter name definitively claimed first place. But what made this run special? To me, I think the most interesting part is the overworld. Every run up to this point used villages, but this one didn't. It used the various features of the ocean. Nowadays, runners only play island spawn, so it's nice to see that this run could be considered the blueprint. As for why this run was faster, it was due to the blind travel. Comparing this run to both Illumina's and its other slower time, it actually leaves the nether slower. The difference is that while the other two traveled 4 minutes to get to the stronghold, this run only took 2 minutes. So TLN just broke the world record by a whole minute and 43 seconds. Naturally, it would take a few months to beat this, right? 18 days later, an unknown runner would enter into a new world. His name is FE666. This run had an absolutely insane seed, spawning right next to a tiger village with a blacksmith. But there was more. It also had a completable ruin portal. Using it, Effie entered the nether at a very low time of 1 minute. When he gets in, you'll notice he does a thing where he lowers his FOV to 30 and starts spinning around. This is known as an E-ray. If there's a bastion in loaded chunks and you're staring at it, this E number will spike up, indicating which direction it's in. After Effie does this, he knows where to go. Another minute of travel later, he would find a bridge bastion and start his route. After getting pearls, obsidian, and string, he was off to look for a fortress. A decent trip later, and he found one. Unfortunately, he was at a bad part of the fortress and had to spend around a minute and a half to get to a blaze spawner. He however made up for this with an insane 6 for 6 on blaze rods. As he was building his portal to leave the nether, disaster struck. You'll notice that Effie is frantically searching around his inventory for a flint and steel, but can't seem to find it. That's because he never had one in the first place. When he originally entered the nether through the ruined portal, he used a fire charge. That shouldn't be a problem though, because piglins trade fire charges, right? Yes, but since runners are so used to entering with a flint and steel, they throw the fire charges out to clear their inventories. This is what Effie accidentally did and was now stuck in the nether. After a little bit of thinking, however, Effie is able to come up with a solution. Using the iron nuggets and gravel that pigs conveniently trade, he was able to get flint in order to light the portal. Small time loss out of the way, he exited the nether at 9 minutes and triangulated the distance to the stronghold. His first eye read 158, his second 143. An insane 15-degree change told him he was incredibly close to the stronghold. 2 eyes later, it went down and he was now navigating his way towards the portal room. How long did that take him? 15 seconds. In the end, before 11 minutes, it came down to the 1 cycle. As the credits rolled, his in-game time read 11:53, which was retimed to 11:50. Now, I want to talk about the runner himself. This number in the top right corner is the number of worlds he reset. For the time, Effie was considered a very fast world resetter. If something didn't immediately catch his eye, he was already leaving the world and starting the next. While this is commonplace in current Minecraft speedrunning, back then it wasn't. To me, this showed that just good seeds weren't enough for a world record. They needed to be amazing, which is what Effie was looking for. So now we're about 2 minutes away from the big goal of sub 10. Surely the world records would slow down, but no. Just 4 days later, we got a world record from a runner you might be familiar with, the Sizzler. Unfortunately, we're back to village speedruns, but whatever. This one also had a ruined portal, which Sizzler used as a lava pool. After entering the nether and running around for about 45 seconds, Sizzler gazed upon one of the best things to see in speedrunning, a blaze spawner with a bastion right behind it. With 6 rods, Sizzler went to the treasure bastion and started his route. The bastion wasn't in the best coordinates, so he had to take a short travel to better ones. With a very fast blind, this happened.
Holy shit.
Oh my god!
Sizzler portaled right next to a monument and got donged. While it does suck, it wasn't over. He could just travel to a nearby island and death reset in order to get rid of mining fatigue. On the way there, he ended up finding an ocean exposed portal room.
What?!
Entering the end before 10 minutes, it was time to kill the dragon.
Oh my god! What the fuck? What the fuck? No, I did not just do that. No. No, 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 no. No, no, no. No, 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 I did not just do that. Holy fuck, holy fuck.
It flew down and Sizzler ended with a time of 11:10, later retimed to 11:07. This run was good. I'd say that the only bad parts are that he didn't spawn right next to the fortress and he got donged. Otherwise, everything else went smoothly. All these runners have shown an immense amount of skill, but this next one is truly something else. Remember how Illumina got the world record without using F3? Well, back then F3 wasn't as necessary. There weren't that many exclusive techniques that work with F3 besides knowing your coordinates. But after that run, many new strategies were developed. As mentioned with FE, E-raying for a bastion is huge. Instead of just randomly running around, you know the exact direction to run. Another nice thing is the pie chart. It can tell you if there's a mob spawner in your render distance, which indicates a fortress. Not to mention eye angles for easier triangulation. Well, this next runner decided to scrap all of that, because he doesn't need it. Minsky came completely out of the blue with this run, but we'll talk about that later. Let's first quickly talk about the run. Another overworld without a village, instead using a shipwreck. Finding a magma ravine, he isn't quite able to make a portal, but uses a nearby lava pool. Entering the nether on a slower pace than others, this run quickly takes a turn. Minsky spots a housing bastion and completes his route in a little bit under 2 minutes. Still, he's not on the fastest time yet until he arrives at a fortress, but this is where the pace changes. At a blaze spawner, there's absolutely no downtime. His blaze spawns are quick, and when he's forced to wait, he builds the portal. Exiting the nether, sub 9, he's off searching for the stronghold. Checking the angle, he stumbles upon the ocean. With an incredible stroke of luck, he spots an ocean exposed portal room. Now Minsky is into the end before 10 minutes when he has to kill the dragon. Here's another downside of not using F3. There are no hitboxes, which is what but runners use the time beds easier. So when it's time to kill the dragon, Minsky hits probably the most impressive one cycle ever. 4 beds, no hitboxes, and to top it all off, the dragon had flipped orientation, making it even harder to time. Obviously in excitement, Minsky accidentally resets his timer when he finishes the game. No problem however, because it's retimed to 11 minutes and 1 second. Earlier I mentioned that Minsky had come out of nowhere, and yeah, it's because he did. His account had no prior runs, and even the YouTube channel the run was posted on had nothing. Obviously this was suspicious. So when you look on speedrun.com, his run doesn't appear under the history because it was unfortunately rejected. The mods had stated that it was unverifiable, not because there was evidence it was cheated, but because they cannot accept it due to their standards for evidence. As a quick side note, in retrospect, it was highly likely that this run was actually legit. Looking at his YouTube, there are other fast times showing that he is the real deal. However, for the sake of this story, the record remains forgotten. Now, only a minute separates us from the first sub 10 speedrun. We're getting closer and closer, but the bigger question is, who's he gonna be? Who's gonna be the first player to get the coveted sub 10? Some people thought Illumina, Rainx, Sizzler, or even Minsky, but in case you're not used to it by now, you should know that Minecraft speedrunning has never been predictable. Success isn't linear. I'm sure you've heard this before, but this game embodies that to the highest level. And nothing could demonstrate that more than what happened on April 19th.
Dude. Oh my god. Dude. What the fuck?
The runner, Brentilda, would end up skipping the first sub 11 and go all the way to the first sub 10. How did this even happen? Brentilda wasn't anyone's first pick for who would get the first sub 10, and it didn't even seem like Brentilda himself was ready for that. Well, the secret lies with this fossil. Smart members in the community discovered that the way fossils generate in the 00 chunk correlate with the positions of strongholds. This is known as divine travel. It's what allowed Brentilda to exit the nether directly into the stronghold. Something to mention is the large disparity between his real time and in-game time. This is due to Brentilda being an excessive pauser. Since runs go off IGT, Brentilda is free to pause as much as he wants. While this was a controversial topic when it happened, I believe I've talked enough and won't get into it. Currently the record sits just above 7 minutes, and while it seems like the time can't get lower, speedrunners are good at breaking expectations. That's gonna be all from me. Let me know if you want me to recap everything that happened after the first sub 10. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.